There's been criticism that we have no exit strategy at the moment, but is it even possible, Professor, to have an exit strategy at the moment?
Well, I think it's difficult to have an exit strategy because there's still a lot we don't know about this virus. We don't know how far it's spread because we haven't got what we call large population antibody studies to see, well, for every one case we've detected, is there only really other one case we've missed, or is there 10 or 100 cases we've missed? So that's vital information before we can really plan that. But there's lots we do know. We do know that people in the older age group have much higher mortality than those who are at 20s and 30s. We know children under the 15 appear relatively rarely to get this infection, and even rarer get serious complications from it. We also know that we've been quite successful in Australia in stopping this from spreading. We are one of the few countries in the world that realised there was an epidemic, did lots of testing and got on top of it early, because our peak was the 25th of March and so far our numbers have been falling. Yes, we still have some local transmission, and unfortunately I think that's going to continue for probably the next 2 years, because I doubt we'll ever be able to get rid of this virus. But we've made the transmission in the community very low. Where we have an uncontrolled epidemic is when 10 people give it to 15 who give it to 18. Well, in Australia that's not happening. 10 people might have given it to 2 people who've given it to 1 person. That's not good if you're one of those persons, but it means from a population point of view, we are controlling the spread. So far, we are the best example in the world of what to do to stop this from spreading.
Professor, the Prime Minister and the New South Wales Premier have already started making noises about perhaps unlocking some of our lockdowns. Does that hearten you?
Well, it does. I mean, the best example we could probably look at is New Zealand. That went into a lockdown very early, but their numbers aren't as good as Australia per capita. So I don't see any evidence that an over-the-top lockdown does any more, relatively speaking, than what we've done already. And we need to be very careful that we don't overdo it at the wrong time. Now, winter comes, we may have to take a different approach if we're getting, for instance, uncontrolled spread. But in Australia, we haven't had that, and I don't think we will get that.
The business lobby have already come out very strongly in the last couple of days and said, look, the paralysis of this is going to damage the economy irreparably. Is there an argument for that? I mean, do we have to preserve part of that social structure too?
Well, I think we do have to keep social structures going, and that includes livelihoods, just not lives. Now, this is a balancing act, and I don't, say I've got the answer, but I don't think we can become all hermits for the next 2 years. I think that's an impossibility. We're going to have to get society to sort of come to some consensus. This is the best we can do, and we need to continue to this medium to long term without absolutely paralysing everything else. Because if we don't do that, the people who are at lower risk, I think, are going to actually start saying, forget it. You cannot police this for 6 months or 12 months. This will only work if the community is on side. I think the community gets it. They get that our hands are important. They get hand washing, hand hygiene is important. They get that you might cough and splutter over somebody and give it to somebody else. So they get they need to keep their distance, and they also get don't go near anybody if you're sick. If we do all those things, and 95% of us do it, or 100% to be better, we will make a lot of difference to the spread.
What do you think about what the Swedes are doing with that more open model, where they take the vulnerable and over 70s to one side, isolate them, but let the rest of the population pretty much continue as per usual?
Well, I think those who are more vulnerable do need to socially distance themselves and have more relatively less people they interact with. But I feel a bit uneasy about the Swedish experiment. They've got a lot more deaths than us, and I worry that if you let this spread too far, you get deaths that are unacceptable, not only the older group, but in fact in 20 and 30, 40 and 30 and 30 and 40-year-olds. So I think we need to be careful until we have more data.
It's hard to know who's right and who's wrong, and we just haven't got the history to back up any decisions.
Look, I actually think none of us know how this is going to go. None of us have enough data to actually predict this. There's things we know and there's things we're making assumptions. Once we get that data, we can make more informed decisions based on the science and the data we've got.
Hello, I'm Tara Brown. Thanks for watching. To keep up with the latest from 60 Minutes Australia, make sure you subscribe to our channel. You can also download the 9Now app for full episodes and other exclusive 60 Minutes content.